right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to do section 1-7. Notice the title of it is Represent Functions as Graphs. So we're going to do a little more graphing today. All right. Again, we're going to look at 4D graphs of functions. Things to keep in mind. You can use a graph to represent a function. In a given table, each corresponding pair of input and output values forms an ordered pair. In other words, you've got an X and a Y, and they form an ordered pair when you put them in their H table. An ordered pair of numbers can be plotted as a point. So any ordered pair can be plotted as a point. The X coordinate is your input. It belongs with the horizontal axis. The Y coordinate is the output, and that's the vertical axis. Okay, so this is kind of review stuff, hopefully. Okay. All right, so when we have something like this, you'll notice that I gave it to you in steps. They give you an equation, and notice I'm still giving you the domain, right? We've done this before, so I'm going to put my X here. I'm going to put Y equals X plus 1 in the middle. I'm going to put my Y off to the side. Step 1 is to make my table. So what value do I put in first? 1, and where do you get that from? My domain, that's correct. So I'm going to put 1 over here. Y equals 1 plus 1. Notice how I took out my X and I put in my number and I put parentheses around it. Y ends up giving me 2. Okay, and draw my line. On your quiz, I noticed a lot of you did a great job at this. There were only like 1 or 2 people that didn't show steps, so I thought that was really good. I'm going to put in 2 because, again, that's in my domain. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then finally, I'm going to put in 3 because that's what they told me to do. And I end up with 1. I don't have to show another step in there. This is only a one-step equation process. If you want to show another step, you may. Okay. All right, now, the next step says to plot your points. So I'm going to take my graph. Notice that I've got them darkened in. Remember we talked the last time we met that we darken our X and Y axes. We could use pencil, we could use marker, we could use pen, we could use a highlighter. That highlighter would probably be the best. Make sure you put arrows on the end of your lines, and also make sure that you label them X and Y. Okay. So my ordered pair, my first ordered pair was 1 what? 1, 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2. Put my dot right there. My next ordered pair is 2, 3. 2, 3, and my next one is 3, 4. Okay. Do I connect the dots? No. I do not. Why don't I? This is from last week. Why don't I connect those dots? Yes?
Because they gave you the numbers and you didn't get to choose the numbers.
That is correct. We did not choose the numbers. They gave us the numbers, and when they do that, we don't connect the dots. So very nice. Okay, don't connect the points or the dots. Okay, do I need to do anything else?
No.
I do not. I do not need to do anything else. Now, when I plotted these dots, they kind of formed a line. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That is a good thing, and why is it a good thing? Yes?
Because it's a linear function.
It is a linear function, that's correct. Okay? Anytime you have a linear function, they should form a line. We don't connect the dots, but they should kind of form the line. Now, if I had a dot that was way out here, what should come into your head? I did something wrong, I need to go back and I need to search, right? All right, good. Questions on this? Wonderful. Let's keep going. All right. On this, it says to write a function rule for the function, identify the domain and the range of the function. All right. So what we're going to do is step 1, we're going to make a table. Now notice that this is not an H table. There is no work involved in this. All I need to do is list my ordered pairs. And I'm going to go from left to right. So I'm going to grab my first dot right here, and what is that? It's 1, 0. So which is 1? My X or my Y? My X. So it's 1, 0. Okay? And then I'm going to grab my next little dot. What is that? Should be 2. You know, it looks a little off, but it should be down. It should be like right here.
So it's 2, 2.
Okay, it should be 2, 2. Let me double check that and make sure it's right. Nope, sorry, blew up. It should be up. I don't know why it's doing that. It should be right here.
So,
Okay.
2,
So it's 2,
3.
3. Yep, it's 2, 3. Okay. It was placed wrong. That's the creator's mistake. Okay, the next one is 3, 3, 6. Yeah? When in doubt, always ask. Okay? And the next one is 4, 9. Okay, so I made a table from the graph. Second step, find the relationship between the input and output. Okay, so what's going on? And we've done this before, remember? It was on the quiz, it says write a rule for the table. Okay, what's going on between the domain and the range? What do I do to the X to get the Y? Give you a little time. I would get out your calculator, start doing some, you know, adding, multiplying, adding, subtracting, those types of things. It's a little bit more involved than what you're used to. Start playing with your numbers. Good practice for what's going to happen on the test. Okay, so if you have something like this, I know just adding and subtracting isn't going to work. So I need to like multiply and add or multiply and subtract. Taking a look at the first one, would I multiply and add? So like would I take 2 times 1 and add something? No. So not gonna. So I know I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply by a number, and then I'm going to subtract a number. What do you think it's going to be? Get it? Okay, so 1 times 2 is 2, subtract 3, not quite. Yes, ma'am.
Times 3 and subtract 3.
Okay, so she thinks I'm going to multiply by 3 and subtract by 3. Well, let's take a look. 1 times 3 is, minus 3 is, that works. 2 times 3 is, minus 3 is, that works, okay? 3 times 3 is, subtract 3,
9.
it's 6, okay? I'm okay so far, but it's got to work for all of them, right? 4 times 3 is, minus 3 is, 9. So does that work? That's correct. Okay, now the next says I need to write a function. So that's like a rule. This is the same thing as a rule. Notice that I could write function or I can write rule. It's all, or equation. It means all the same. So I'm going to write y equals, I'm going to 3 what? X minus 3. Yep. And it's not always going to be, easy addition, subtraction. Sometimes you have to multiply and subtract, so get the calculator out and start playing with numbers. You have to write down a few that are wrong just so that you don't, you know where you're at, then do that. All right, let's keep going. Ways to represent a function. Okay, so one way to represent a function is a verbal rule. Okay, so I can say the output is twice or 1 less than twice the input. Another way to represent a function is an equation, y equals 2x minus 1. Another way to write have a function is to do a table. Now take a look at the table for a minute. How do I know this is a function? Do you remember? Yeah. Absolutely. No numbers, repeat in the input. Remember we talked about that. There's no numbers that repeat here, so that's a good thing. Okay? And then finally, a graph. Now let's take a look at this graph for just a minute. Have you ever heard of something called the vertical line test? Yeah? You probably learned it last year. And what it says is this, is I take something that's a vertical line, and you can look at a ruler that's straight up and down. The vertical line tests that when I have this and I go across my graph from left to right, it will only touch one dot at one time, okay? So for example, if I take this and I draw a vertical line, does it touch more than one star? No. Okay, what if I take a line like this? Does it touch more than one star? No. If I draw a line like this, does it touch more than one star? No. So
If you do it the other way.
no, it's just the vertical line test. That would be horizontal. So this is the vertical line test. Okay, and it says the line can only touch one dot at a time. Okay? Now I'm going to show you something different. Because remember when I said a while back, sometimes you get tables, and I said if the x value repeats, I said it's not a function, and later on I'd show you why. Well, this is the later on, okay? So let me grab you a table like this. And I'm going to put in numbers like 1, 2, 2, 3. And I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to come up with my x and y axes. Notice how I put arrows on the end. I label it x and y. I'm going to put hash marks. Notice how they're evenly spaced. They're not hard to do. Right? And now I'm going to plot my dots. So I've got 1, 0. 1, 0 is here. I've got 2, 1 is here approximately. 2, 2 is right here. And 3, 3 is here. Okay, now, remember I said before, this is not a function because these repeat. So I can look at this table and I can tell you right now, then those repeat, so it's not a function. Remember, a function is like a special type of relationship. It's like the relationship between a biological mother and child. You only have one biological mother. Okay? So it's a special type of relationship. Just like a function is a special type of graph. You can have tons of graphs out there, but a function is a special type. Okay? Now, take a look at this. If I draw a vertical line here, does it pass through more than one dot? No. What if I draw a vertical line right here? Does it pass through more than one dot?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is not a function because of that line. It crossed that and it touched two dots. It's not a function. So now you can see how the table and the graph are related. Now on your test, I'm going to give you just tables, and I'm going to say, is it a function, yes or no? Don't draw a graph if I just give you a table. There's going to be another part of your test that I'm going to give you just the graph. And you're going to say, no, this is not a function because it doesn't pass the vertical line test. It's called the vertical line test. And some kids shorten it by the VLT, vertical line test. Okay, and you're actually going to draw a line and show me that it doesn't work. But if ever you're on your MCAs and you look at a table and you're not quite sure about the rule, most students remember the vertical line test. And so they'll draw a graph off to the side of their paper and they'll draw it in and they'll be like, oh, yep, that's right. They repeat, vertical line test doesn't work. Yep, this is not a function. This is a wannabe function. Questions? Okay, that's it for today. I'll go ahead and I'll give you an assignment and then make sure that you let me know if you have trouble.